We're speaking with the legendary softballer and gold medalist icon, Bunny Rhamdas. Her accolades goes from being one of the sensational players of the Belize softball teams in the city and the inter-district competitions. She, most of all, was a player and a member of the national selection that won the gold in the Central American and Caribbean Games. Bunny, I want to go straight to that particular game. Give us, if you can, a play-by-play action of the last game that you guys played to win that championship, to win that gold medal. What was it like?
Oh, it was a good game, and it was the fast one too, because all the way we were leading Puerto Rico nil, and at the end of the game we defeated them 14-0. They had to stop the game in the bottom of the 5th inning because we were leading by 10. So
that was a blowout.
Yeah.
Of all the teams, Puerto Rico at that time, and that was the last. That was the championship game, right?
That had defeated us. The first game we played, Belize and Puerto Rico, they had defeated us 5-4, and Netherlands and Belize had defeated Puerto Rico, so we had the chance to meet them again in a round robin, and we beat them 14-0 to win the gold.
14-0, and that's some piece of history for me there, because I did not know the last game that won that championship game in 1974. That was that you guys won the gold in the Central American and Caribbean Games. Describe for us, if you can, the homecoming. As I remember quite well that the spirit at that time that was at home in Belize there, the schools and the whole welcome that was there for you guys. Describe that moment for you.
On that day, I remember we didn't feel like we have done, something so great, because, when I realized we had done something is when they used to have this plane, Sasa Airlines. Mr. Musa Syed Musa was the Minister of Sports those times, and he came on the plane to meet us, and when we board the plane, he had a chance to sit beside all of us. He took time to sit beside all of us, and I remember he sitting beside me, telling me, he said, "Bunny, you know what you guys did? What you guys did? This was history for Belize." That's when I started feeling, spirit of everything. And he said, "You know what all they have in store for you guys when you reach home?" And I said, "Man," and I did saw it when we reached Belize International Airport. And upon approaching, the playing field, I saw so many people already, and man, goosebumps began, coming over me. And when we land, we saw, people Babrino dance group, everybody, the Olympic Association, they were right there too. They were performing. They had so many, things, in store for us that day, and it was good. And even when we were going into town, we have on the airport road welcome the girls but not the boys, and I remember reaching by Paloti. they asked all of us to come out of the convertible that we were in, and they had this big truck, was just like a float, and they had this big medal on it, and they put a step there to let us climb up, and we were sitting face to face, and we started motorcading around Belize. And I could always remember, we were so happy, and when we reached in front of Technical, I saw a lady come and she dashed a whole bag of ideals in the truck, and I got spilled all over with these ideals, and I wasn't mad. I was happy, and we continued then. Like, teachers couldn't get the students to do anything that day because this was a historic occasion, and it was like Independence Day or 10th of September. It was so grand. And later on we reached the Riverside Hall, where they were having something there too. They had given us a package of chocolates, and they had little interviews and playing with Linda Lewis, and people came to meet us, and it was good. And I remember this guy, Louis Gill, he went for track and field, and his little brother was dead, so they had saved the bodies for when we came home, so that we could have gone to the funeral. So the whole Belizean delegation had gone to that funeral, and they had this big double-decker dance at Bird's Isle.
In that specific tournament itself, throughout all those games, what kind of chemistry did you guys have? Because for you to defeat some of the greatest teams in that particular league at that time, Netherlands, Antilles, Salvador, Jamaica, Bermuda, and all of that, you guys were playing at a high world-class level. What was the kind of chemistry that was going on in terms of coaches and players and communication and discipline that put you guys at the top and to win that goal? What was it like, the kind of camaraderie and cooperation that was going on?
We were a team who listened to our manager, and we really were playing heads-up ball game. We played heads-up ball game, and we were made up of 4 teams. The best were chosen from the 4 teams in Belize, and we were like a family.
And those four teams were which 4 teams?
You had Berger,
well, it was the best of the national selections, right? Best from all the best teams in that time.
Yeah. And we had Millport, the team that I played on. We had Guineas, Berger, Lyolans. From those 4 teams, they usually pick the best and make the Belize team. Usually they would pick about 23 players, and in 2 weeks they would drop some to the best, and another 2 weeks again they'll drop to the team that is going on the tour. And I remember I always made that team.
You could hear when you guys were playing the Central American Caribbean Games that was staged in Belize at the MCC Garden. You could see while you're looking at those games, there was a great degree of communication between the Belize team. You could hear you guys talking to each other, and your coaches, Lashley yelling or Solis or somebody saying something to you guys. What was that like?
Yeah, communication. We communicated, and that pulled us through. Yeah.
So that was something that was part of your winning strategy.
Yeah, we played together every step of the way.
Describe for us your softball life as a teenager in Belize. When, what got you into softball and what were some of the teams that you played with, and then what propelled you to become part of that great national team?
As a little girl, I used to live right in front of Rogers Stadium, so I had to know how to play softball because that was the only sport that was playing, around there at the time when I was growing up. And my parents couldn't keep me from Rogers Stadium, so I used to see Consuelo Dugal and all those. Done Right, that's the team I started on. And I remember while they were playing, and me and my little friends, we always been throwing balls to one another. And later on, you know what? I remember this man, Mr. Kali Coffee. He looked at me one day and he said, "I know you. My mother used to play softball too." And he said, "You're Gloria's daughter." I said, "Yes." He said, "You know something? I want you on my junior team." And, he gave me a uniform. The uniform was big, but I still wore it. And I started to play on his junior team. And I advanced so fast, I was placed on the senior team, Done Right senior team. And I remember one day, I was on the bench, and Mr. Gill, call it Gill, he told me, he said, "Rhamdas," he said, "I'm going to put you in outfield." And that was the very day I showed myself. And I remember a batter batted the ball out in the outfield, and no one would have, it was an impossible ball. I caught that ball, and no one thought that I had that ball in my hand. And from then I was considered one of the best on Done Right. And I showed myself, and that very year I got selected for the Belize team. And I was a utility player. Wherever they put me, I played. And I played for St. Ignatius, my primary school that I used to go. I played for Wesley College. My team, Wesley College, was the best secondary school team. And you know what? I wasn't used to losing. I played on all the teams that won. St. Ignatius School, Wesley College was a winner. My city team, Millport, we won city competitions, countrywide knockout competitions, marathons. I usually play on the winning team. And the Belize team was the winning team too. So whenever I lose, I always cry. I remember in Bermuda, when Jamaica was going to beat us, I saved the day for Belize. I remember, I cannot forget, after winning that game, how Lashley, he separated himself from us. While everybody was cheering me up and hugging me, and Lashley was at one corner doing this.
Stressed out.
He used to scratch his head and one cigarette after the other. But we pulled through for Belize all the time.
What was the kind of relationship between coaches and player at that time? There are so many coaches that we can talk about, and the one that is most renowned is Raymond Lashley. But there was that era and that period of softball in Belize had a specific chemistry that was with it, because there was a certain relationship between player and coach. Well, what was that kind of relationship like?
Yeah, you have some in many teams. You have coaches or manager who has their favorites. I had that problem on the Belize team. I went through some rough times because my manager didn't like me, and And I will bring this up because that's what happened. But I got over that because I was out there to represent Belize. I was out there to represent Belize.
It was like a challenge for you.
He said that, he used to say that I was too show off. You gotta be show off if you want to win the game, you know. And maybe I was show off, but I did great.
You had a great sense of confidence on yourself.
I did great with my show offness.
What was the manager's name?
Also, we can see during that period of time there was a great degree of support from family, friends, and the country on a whole. You know, a great team is always successful when it has a whole nation behind it.
Yeah.
And it appeared that the Belize selection at that time that rose to such high level of sportsmanship at that time was very it rose to that level because of the support you guys had from family, friends, and the country. Also, what was that kind of relationship like? The support you got at home from your friends around and stuff, and from the country on a whole, government and people.
Well, indeed, it started from my home. My parents, they supported me 100%, and if I even lost, and I go home, you know, I feel that love because I remember my grandmother used to come, and she knew when I lose. I would sit down by myself and I just start crying, and she would come and she rubbed my head. He said, I know you lost. He said, but no worry, you gotta win some and lose some. So I told her no, and I cry, and I told her, I said, you know, it's because of that one we lost the game, or, you know, blame it on somebody. But like I told you, I wasn't so used to losing, so it came in hard to me when I lose a game.
You told me off the record once that the game between Belize and Bermuda, in Bermuda itself, the sort of because of the Belize team was so good, and as Elaine Smith mentioned, Bermuda was one of the most competitive teams against the Belize team. And I remember speaking with you off the record, and you mentioned to me about a specific game that was played in Bermuda, and what one of the coaches said. Tell us about that.
Oh, the game with Jamaica and Belize. Jamaica was leading like 9-2. And me, Elaine, you had Eleanor Young, and Mary Wade, we were on the bench. And because we were in that hot spot, then Lashley came and he gave us a chance to play. He called on us. You had like no one was on bases then. Lashley called up Eleanor Young, and she batted and got on the base. He called Elaine. Elaine came to, got on the base. The runner advanced to second. Marie he called, and Marie got on base too. And he looked at me. I saw him scratching his head. He looked at me, said, Rhamdas, come here. I went. He said, the first pitch, he said, going up there to bat, the first pitch that comes, he said, you just hit it. And I went and I did the same thing he wanted me to do. And believe me, I hit that ball through the hole which we call between second and shortstop. That ball went through second and shortstop, and the center fielder came in, and that ball went right through her foot, right into the outfield. And I scored all those runs. And we won that game that night.
After being back
Right.
7 to 9.
That was the bottom of the 7th inning. In the newspaper the other day, you heard that young Bunny Rhamdas saved the day for Belize last night. I was so proud of myself. And I was so small.
And what was that remark that the Jamaican or the Bermuda coach made that you told me about?
Oh no.
The remark that he made.
That was when Bermuda had defeated us in the tournament, you know. And you know why? Because the umpire stole that game. When that game was finished, he said, the Lord is my shepherd, I steal what I want. That's what he said.
The Lord is my shepherd, I steal what I want.
But that's what made me cry, because that game was for Belize. You can see how he stole that game outright. It was plain to be seen that he stole that game. Was calling bad calls and those things.
Yeah, hurt.
That was hurt.
Yeah. If you were to give an advice to the young softballers today that are coming up, what would you say to them? Because that period has never been repeated before, the period that you guys played ball in. What would be your advice to them?
Well, I'd give them this advice that if softball is what you want to play, then play. But if it's not your thing, don't play. Yeah.
You have to have a passion.
Yeah, you gotta want to do it, because you know it's no use playing something that you will screw up and let everybody else look bad. Because that's what is going on in Belize right now. It's so sad that you know, you have people fighting after the games. The players from other teams, they just can't cooperate together. Like I told you, back in the days when we used to play softball, it was a family. People has to lose. A team has to lose, and you have to have a winner also. You just can't, you know, want to win all the time. Everybody needs a play. You have champions and you don't have champions. You know, I've seen the games that the teams in Belize are playing right now. It's very sloppy, and then you can count the fans that goes to the games. I remember back in the day when we used to play, those bleachers was crowded. The stadium was crowded. People don't even have seat to sit down, you know. And we used to have important people go and watch us play games. People took time out to go to Rogers Stadium whenever a game is on. And all the games were always crowded.
Fan support, which is very, very important.
That was the thing. That was the game that people look forward to, you know, forward to see.
How many gold medals did the Belize selection in your time won? Was the 1974 championship for the Central American Caribbean Games, was that the only one?
We only that's the only gold medal, Central American and Caribbean Games.
But you played many Central American and Caribbean Games, right?
That was the only one, because I had my foot broken. I was knocked down one day after softball practice, and I had my right foot badly broken. A pickup truck knocked me down and broke up my foot.
Did you come back? You had a comeback?
I couldn't come back with that foot. I couldn't take the chance to do that, because it's horrible.
And that sort of ended your career in a way.
My career was just dashed into that.
Bunny Rhamdas, do you think that Belize will ever rise to that level of of sportsmanship and the kind of quality of ball, softball that we played in the 70s and in the 80s. Do you think that Belize will ever rise to that level again?
Well, softball is being played under that level, and players have attitudes and, you know, being so rash. Then I don't see it coming anytime soon. So I think they got to work on that. And I really would like to see softball come back to the way we used to play. And I don't know how they can't do it. Maybe because of the players, they go out, they bleach, they drink. You can't play a sport if that is happening. So I don't want to be like I'm talking about them, but gossiping about them, but they need to uplift the standard.
Well, Rhamdas, I want to thank you very much for giving us this interview and for your eloquent and all the information in making this documentary. I want to thank you again for coming.